Ever really thought about language as, well, a living thing, how it morphs and shifts, sometimes creating completely new ways to talk? That's what we're digging into today. We're aiming to clear up some common confusion around dialects, pidgins, and creoles. They sound similar, maybe, but they tell really different stories about people, history, and connection. Ready to unpack these? Okay, let's start with something maybe more familiar. Dialect. We hear that word a lot. What does it actually mean, linguistically speaking? Our sources say it's about regional or social variety, differences in pronunciation, words, grammar.
That's right. And dialects are fully functional languages, yeah.
Right.
Like think about English,
Mm-hmm.
how it's spoken in Scotland versus, say, London. Different sounds, different words sometimes, but both are definitely English.
Okay.
And what's really key here, linguistically, no dialect is inherently superior. They all work perfectly well for communication within their communities.
But some sound more, I don't know, proper to people.
Exactly. That's the social factor. Some dialects, like received pronunciation in the UK, gain prestige. They get seen as the standard.
Ah, right.
But that's purely about social perception and, frankly, power dynamics. Not about the language itself being better. It's something to remember if you ever feel self-conscious about your own way of speaking.
That's a really important point. Okay, so dialects are variations within a language, but what about when people speaking completely different languages need to communicate? Like for trade or something urgent. How does that even work?
Yeah, that's where you get pidgins. A pidgin is essentially a stripped-down, simplified language.
Stripped down how?
Well, it pops up when groups without a common language need to interact, usually for very specific things. Trade is a classic example, or maybe situations involving colonization or migrant labor. Think basic communication needs.
It's like a temporary fix.
Kind of. It borrows vocabulary, mostly from one dominant language. We call that the lexifier.
Yeah.
But the grammar is much, much simpler. Very limited vocabulary, too.
Uh-huh.
And crucially, nobody speaks a pidgin as their first language, their mother tongue. It's always a second language, learned for that specific contact situation.
Can you give an example?
Sure. TikTok Pearson in Papua New Guinea is a famous one. It originally drew heavily on English vocabulary because of historical contact. It shows how languages adapt under pressure, often in unequal circumstances, too.
Right, born out of necessity. So it's like a basic toolkit. But what if that toolkit gets used so much it becomes more? Like, what if kids start growing up speaking it?
Exactly. That's the transition point. When a pidgin becomes stable and children start learning it as their native language, it begins to transform.
Into what?
Into a creole. A creole language is what emerges when that pidgin becomes the mother tongue of a community.
Ah, okay.
And because it's now a first language, it has to do everything a language does. Express complex thoughts, emotions, function in family life, education, culture.
So it gets more complicated.
Much more complicated. The grammar expands, becomes more regularized, the vocabulary grows enormously to meet all those needs. It often creatively blends features from the original languages involved. It becomes a full, complete language in its own right.
Like Haitian Creole. I think I've heard of that one.
Precisely. Haitian Creole developed from a French-based pidgin during the colonial era. Now it's the native language for millions, distinct from